Okay, we're on to part 7 now of my story. Last I believe I left off, I had went to work as a uh, independent contractor for this uh, small drywall company owned by Tim Whitfield. Um, he was the guy that married us, and I kept in contact with him. I decided I wanted to get away from the driving job and the delivery position in Dalton. The guy didn't live up to his word. Didn't live up to what my expectations based on his word was. Had excuses for everything. He was greedy. Anyway, doing the drywall. Um, it was good when it was busy, but it's construction, and rain is seasonal, and it makes it hard to, you are the owner of the company puts in bids for it was all residential, so none of it was commercial. Put in the bids to these contractors, either that were building the houses or having them hiring other contractors to build them, and you'd have to wait. You'd hope you had enough jobs ahead while you were waiting on that one to continue working and keep your crew working. It wasn't always the case. But during that time, I did, he did lead us to the Lord, me and Dessa. He did lead us to the Lord. And also, um, towards the end of that time, or after that time, I went ahead and, because we were, we done moved out of my parents' house and moved into our own home, trying to pay rent, make a car payment, this and that, and everything, and it was a struggle because of the short work weeks, and he wasn't really paying a whole lot either. I hadn't been there quite a year probably when I decided it was that enough was enough. So he gave me the day off. He gave me the day off one day, and I went applying for different jobs. And one of the places I went to was Yates Bleachery, and I got the job on the spot, and told him I was going to work out a 2-week notice, and he said I didn't have to worry about doing that. If I didn't want to, I could just go ahead and go if I wanted to. I said, no, I'm going to do you fairly. So, started the job at Yates Bleachery. That went on from 2002 to 2003. Well, it went on a little longer than that. It went on to about 2004. I may had started that job in 2001 at the same right during the same time, because I was turning 21 while working for Tim, and I had been so eager all my teenage life to buy my first handgun. And I was going to be 21, so I went and bought my first handgun while working with him, and probably it was sometime I'm wanting to say it happened before 2021. I mean, before 20 or before 2001, but it might have been 2002 when I started working for the Bleachery. Anyway, been working there for a little bit, probably about a year, a little over, depending on my start time. And come home one day. I actually had been talking to Daddy and stuff, and eventually, with Daddy having his problems, his addictions, I was trying to talk to Daddy, trying to offer to take him to AA meetings, Alcoholics Anonymous. I was going to go out of my way and we would go together. That way he wouldn't be alone. And he kept putting it off. And he started talking to Tim in private while I was working with Tim. And I left Tim, went over to the Blue Tree. I guess they were still talking, I don't know. But then I was supposed to borrow money from Daddy that weekend to help with rent. I agreed I would come over there that Friday after work, and I was just so tired. So I went straight home. We were renting a trailer. First place we ever rented was a trailer, single wide trailer. And we were sitting there trying to discuss what we were going to do about supper. Got a phone call. Mama. In a very crisis state of mind, with her voice, her mind, and everything else, she's begging me to hurry up and rush over to their apartment. Something was wrong with Daddy and she didn't know what it was. Something medically was wrong. So we rushed over there. My Bluetooth keeps wanting to adjust out of my ear. We rushed over there, make sure this thing's on. Yeah. We rushed over there. I had this bad feeling come over me. Something wasn't right. I get over there. He's laying in his chair. And there's no signs of life. Can't get him to respond to anything. So I use his phone, call 911. Bad part was they lived right there at the county line, so the wrong county was picking up the 911 call, and they told me I'd have to call Catoosa. Well, they told me I had to call the correct county. I told them I didn't have time for all that. Just transfer me. I've got an unconscious individual on my hands right now. I need medical assistance immediately. So the dispatcher asked me if I knew how to perform CPR. Now, I did take a CPR class at one point. I don't remember when it was or where it was. I could have sworn I remember taking one, or I think we might have went over in high school in health class. But it had been years. And I had to ask her to walk me through it. And I really didn't get enough far into it before the paramedics finally, got there. And then I was stupid and stopped the resuscitation and walked out there to go get them instead of sending somebody else out there. Anyway, they come in, they worked on him. Police were there. Some detectives came to talk to me and Mama. They rushed him to the hospital. They asked the paramedic what his condition was before they left with him. They said he was critical but unstable. So I guess he still had a little bit of a pulse. Weak. So I took Mama to the hospital and made Dessa stay there with her, if I'm not mistaken. And I first called my youngest sister and told her I couldn't get a hold of my oldest sister, so I ran to her. I drove to her house. Walked in. Everybody, there were people there, but she wasn't there yet. She finally showed up, and I told her what was going on. And the time we got to the hospital, doctor walked out, and I was looking at everybody. I said, well, everybody just should, slowly just shoot their heads. He passed away that evening. That's been over 20 years, and it still gets to me. He passed away that evening. The doctor came out there and asked us if would anybody like to see him for one last time. And me, Dessa, and Mama volunteered. And I don't think Sherry, I don't think either of my sisters did, but I know we volunteered. And before he walked us through the doors, he says, I just want to give you warning. Making sure that you still really want to do this, because this is usually the last thing you end up remembering for the rest of your life. And it's not the nicest of atmospheres. He's not in the best shape. We agreed and went back there anyway. And come back out. I was trying to call people. I couldn't half get a hold of much of anybody. I got a hold of Granddaddy, his dad, and had to break the news to him. And walking out down the hallway, back out to the car to go home. And all of a sudden I heard the hospital doors open, but I didn't pay it no attention. And next thing I know, somebody's hugging up to me. And that's all it took. I don't know how long I don't know for how long or whatever. All I know is I have not cried that hard for most of my life that I can remember. I cried like a baby. I couldn't stop crying for the longest. We went home. I didn't eat. I didn't do anything. We just went home. Couldn't even process. Went to bed, got up the next day. Tim come over that morning. Asked me how I was doing. He asked me if I blamed God. I told him I didn't know how to feel. Not that it was God's fault. Took the following week off without pay. Helped Mama get everything arranged. Ran all kinds of different errands and stuff. Back to his employer and all this, everything else. Everybody was asking what happened. I couldn't even answer it. All I knew is that he'd been drinking that week. That was the week of the anniversary of his mother's death and his only sister's death. This was in January, second week of January. He passed away on the 10th of 2003. His final day, everything, the Sunday before that, when we were talking about me coming over, went over to play on I went over to mess around on the computer, and we got to talking about everything else. Got talking about his habits, him and Mama's relationship, all kinds of stuff. It's like that was the moment, his final moment, to have his eyes opened. I went over. There was a lot of scriptures that I said to him. I don't even remember what they were. It's just something that would pop in my head based on what he would say. I don't typically quote book, chapter, and verses. I might quote books, maybe a chapter. But I wanted to leave that Sunday before he died. And first thing he said to me was, he says, "You've grown a lot in the Lord." And he hugged me, said, "I love you." And I said, "I love you too." And that was going to be the last time I'd ever see him alive. Last hug I'd ever get from him. Or anything like that. Mama said the day he decided he was going to quit drinking. He didn't want no more to do with it. He realized the problems that he had caused with it. The problem, how it had affected us growing up, affected Mama. He said he was sorry. He asked Mama to pray with him. They kept praying. He prayed more than once, asking for forgiveness. He knew it was his last day. If it had done any good for him to go to the doctor or whatever, who knows? For a while, he was grabbing his arm, and he'd do like this with it, and he'd grab it, and he'd exercise it and stuff. He'd take baby aspirin every now and then, probably because he would hurt. Not hurt, but he thought it was muscle pain. It wasn't muscle pain. I think he had, later on, when I felt up to it, I made arrangements to meet with the Catoosa County coroner and asked her about the file. And she went over it with me, and I asked her what was the cause of death. She said they couldn't figure it out. I don't understand that. That's what she went to school for, but they couldn't figure it out. I showed it to my oldest sister. She was an RN at the time. She had become an RN at the time. She said based on everything she was reading, it looked to her like it was a massive heart attack, which would explain the arm and all that stuff. Anyway, after we buried him and everything, I woke up one morning. I guess it was to go to work or something. And my wife Dessa come in there to wake me up. She said, "Hey, honey," she says, "time to get up. You gotta go to work." And I just looked at her and I said, "All right." I didn't say no more, and I got up. She says, "How you doing?" I said, "I don't know." I was getting dressed, and she says, "You know what today is?" And I said, I just named off the day. I named off the day. Yeah, it's whatever day it was. She says, "Yeah, but do you know what else today is?" I said, "No." "What's the big deal?" She says, "It's your birthday." He died 2 weeks before my 23rd birthday. Happy birthday to me. After we got everything handled on that, and I went back to work for a day or two, and then I was out. I took a day off again. And I come back in, and my time card was gone. Walked up to the supervisor and asked about it. He says, "Yeah, go downstairs. Owen wants to talk to you." He's got it. So I went down there, and he wanted to give me a third degree about how much time I'd missed. I basically told him to go fuck himself. I said, "You can fire me if you want to. I don't give a shit. Your job means nothing to me. I was looking for one when I got here." "Well, I can hire anybody off the street. They'd be glad to have the job." I said, "Then do it. Fuck you." Excuse my language. I was not very happy. Yes, I was going to church, but there's only a certain level of disrespect that I'll take. I said I had to take some time off because I was so tired from all this. So I said, "You can do whatever you want to do." I said, make up your mind. You give it to me or not." I said, if you're gonna give it to me, hurry up. I got cloth to run. If not, I'll see you." So he handed me the card back. He says, "Just try to get here more often." I said, "I'll do whatever. I don't care." I said, "I doubt you're gonna fire me with all this cloth I gotta run." But stayed there for a little while longer. Then I left there and went somewhere else. And went to that place back and forth about 3 different times. First time I left there is because I was taking heating and air courses. Second time which I finished that, but that didn't pan out. Second time I left to go truck driving. Got my license and everything, and went to go truck driving. Didn't like that. Third time I left, it was because I didn't have a job, and I needed something better. I didn't come off the road, and I went to work for them the third time, and it was worse than the second time. And yeah, I left there. I went to work over there because I got fired from Ready Ice for an accident. So I left. I went after I come back off the road. I went back to work for Yates because I knew I could get that job quick. And I was there for about a year or a little over. And buddy of mine at Ready Ice told me they were looking for another technician. So I went down and applied and got the job, turned in my notice. Well, I didn't even turn in my notice. I just worked there for an additional 2 weeks. I worked there long enough for them to finally tell me that my drug test and everything come back. And they've got it approved by corporate to hire me. And then as soon as I got that word the next day, I never went back. I was done. And got fired from that job, went to work at Roper, and something else I was doing or something. Anyway, went back on the road, went for about a week, and that didn't pan out. Come back home looking for another job, and buddy called me that worked at that company and told me the reason why he was wanted me to go over there to start with, because he intended on getting me on board with the account he was on so we could team together, because his current teammate was quitting. So after I talked to him enough, they told me it was going to be so much different than what it was last time, because I'd been burned so much I didn't have any trust. So I went back to work over there, stayed there for 6 months. I done went back on the road already. Prior to that company, I actually had done some towing before that, and some roadside assistance after that part, and went to work for Super Service, which is no longer in business. Well, I went to work for Mike Frost to start with, stayed there for about 6 months, cross country, and then went to work for, come off the road, went to work for Super Service, stayed there for about a week, quit, got re-offered to take a gravy dedicated account. I took it, stayed there for another 6 months, teaming with him, and come home. I quit, come home, and went to work over at Roper, left Roper, got into towing. That's when I got into towing, and got my tanker and hazmat, got a job offer hauling fuel, took it. Went from there to a dry bulk tanker company. Did that for about a year and a half. Left there. Went to a temp driving service. Stayed there for a few months. Got to where they didn't have nothing because of the political flu. And got on with a roofing supply house and worked for them for about a year, and got offered this dump truck job. Worked there for 4 months. They were working me every damn weekend. they could try to get away with. And I finally just quit because it wasn't supposed to be every weekend. Went back into heating and air for a few weeks. Got the political flu from this teenager that was all the time going to parties and stuff, and was employed there for about 6 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks, and got a phone call back from the dump trucking company asking me if I'd come back because they'd had like a dozen that done quit after I left. So went back to work over there, and been over 2 years, and I've still been there. So during that time, I'm 44. In that 44 years, a lot of things that's happened. We even experienced a miscarriage, our first child. So I actually have 3 kids, not 2. It was a boy. We agreed to name him John. Tim was the one that officiated the ceremony. I spread the ashes over Daddy's grave. Figure if there's anybody that he should be with now, was Daddy. Daddy was up there waiting on him. Because I know Daddy is with God. Be absent from the body is being in the presence of the Lord. It's not talking about your body, it's talking about your spirit, your soul. We'll get new bodies during the rapture if we die first. If we're His, to get new bodies with. Now that I think I've gotten that out of the way, that's why it took me a little while to talk about it. I'm sure you could sense my emotions during that story, or that part of the story. It still hurts. Daddy was a friend. He wasn't just my father. He wasn't just my daddy. He was a friend too. I could call him up and talk to him about pretty much anything. For the most part, he was always there. Did he have his flaws? Yes. Towards the end, the last couple years, after we'd become Christians, he kind of was standoffish with me more than what he was his other brother, his son-in-law. Because his son-in-law did shit that he did. He drank, he smoked weed. But yeah, that's why it took me a little while. That, and I just kept forgetting to do another one. And I'd remember to do it, and I'd just make up an excuse. But I knew I was going to have to do it regardless. Well, I didn't have to do it, but I knew I needed to do it. See, this thing right here, This is my therapy. Only 2 of you may watch it, but it's still my therapy. I'm talking low because they're in bed. This is the only chance I've had to do this. The next video may either be something out of a book, or I might decide to talk about the train accident that we endured when I was younger. I was about 8 years old, 8 or 9. Yes, you can get hit by a train and survive it. Anyway, we're 35 minutes in, going on 36. I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up and end it. If you've hung in for this long, God bless you. If not, if you have to do it, watch it in pieces, that's fine too. I took the least amount of time that I could on each one of them. So anyway, thanks for listening. Thanks for being there for me. And be deciding what to talk about next. In the meantime, it's Sunday evening. It is April 13th or 14th at 7:30ish. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Maybe I'll try to get back on here in the middle of the week while it's raining. So how it affects us. Most of this last week I could have done it, but it's hard to do this stuff when Des is around. So I like doing it when everybody's in bed and there's no distractions. But anyway, take care. Have a good evening. Talk to you later.